If you clicked on this video, it is because you want to know if wealth is actually destined for you. You are tired of guessing. You are tired of hoping. You want to know what the final, undeniable sign feels like right before the money arrives. You have consumed hours of content telling you that when your manifestation is close, you will feel a massive surge of high vibrational energy. You are told to look for angel numbers or to wait for an overwhelming feeling of excitement. But the great mystic Neville Goddard taught something entirely different. He taught that destiny has a specific feeling, and today I am going to reveal exactly what you will feel when wealth has finally locked onto your timeline. I am here to tell you that almost all of that is a lie. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how the law of assumption actually works. The ultimate symptom that your desire is done is a sudden, strange, and almost confusing loss of desire. You simply stop caring about it. You wake up one morning, you think about the money you have been trying so hard to manifest for months, and you feel absolutely nothing. The desperation is gone, the hunger is gone, the frantic need to do your daily techniques, to visualize until your head hurts, and to repeat affirmations in the mirror. It all just vanishes. For most people, this moment is terrifying. When this profound apathy hits them, they panic. They think they have lost their faith. They think they have given up. They rush to YouTube, desperately searching for a video to motivate them, to hype them back up, to force that feeling of desperate wanting back into their chest. They think that because they no longer feel the burning desire, the universe has cancelled their order. If this has happened to you, listen to me very carefully. You did not lose your faith. You did not give up. You experienced what Neville Goddard called the Sabbath. You reached the state of the wish fulfilled. Think about it with pure, simple logic. Do you desperately desire things you already have? Do you wake up in the morning, grip your steering wheel, and furiously affirm, "I have a car, I have a car, I am so grateful I have a car"? No, you just drive it. The feeling of ownership is not a feeling of frantic excitement. It is a feeling of quiet neutrality. It is boring. It is normal. When the subconscious mind finally accepts your new reality, when it finally clicks and downloads the program of wealth, it turns off the alarm system of desire. Desire is a compass pointing to what you do not have. Once you have it, mentally and emotionally, the compass stops spinning. The desire dies because the possession is born. So, if you have been feeling a strange sense of peace, a quiet indifference toward the money you used to cry over, congratulations. You have crossed the invisible finish line. But do not celebrate and turn this video off just yet, because reaching this state of quiet apathy is only stage 1. There are 3 exact, predictable stages that happen right before wealth materializes in your physical world. You have just entered the first one. But stage 2 is where 99% of people destroy their own manifestations. Because in stage 2, right after you find this beautiful internal peace, your external world is going to look like it is completely falling apart. You are going to face what we call the bridge of incidents. And if you do not understand what is happening behind the scenes, you will react to the chaos, you will panic, and you will pull the seed right back out of the ground before it can bloom. By the end of our time together today, you will not only understand how to survive the collapse of stage 2, but you will master stage 3, which makes you completely untouchable by the physical world. But to get there, we first need to completely dismantle the biggest trap in the manifestation community. We need to talk about the myth of excitement. Everywhere you look, you are told that to attract money, you must be a match to the frequency of money. And modern spirituality has translated this to mean that you must be relentlessly happy, endlessly positive, and vibrating at the highest possible emotional peak. You are taught that if you feel sad or bored or neutral, you are blocking your blessings. You are taught to treat manifestation like a motivational rally. This is a catastrophic error. And it is the exact reason why you have been exhausted, burned out, and broke, despite doing all the right spiritual work. Let us look at how wealthy people actually interact with money. Imagine a billionaire, a person who has more money than they could spend in 10 lifetimes. How does this person feel when they buy a cup of coffee? Do they stand at the counter, shaking with gratitude, tears in their eyes, thanking the universe for the abundance that allowed them to purchase a cappuccino? Do they feel a massive rush of adrenaline when they hand their credit card to the barista? Of course not. They are probably looking at their phone, thinking about a meeting, completely unaware of the transaction. Paying for the coffee is a non-event. It is entirely natural to them. Now, imagine someone who has been broke their entire life, and suddenly they are handed $1,000. When they go to spend it, their heart is racing. Their hands might be sweating. They are excited, yes, but that excitement is rooted in shock. The excitement exists strictly because the experience is rare, unusual, and foreign to their normal identity. Do you see the trap? Excitement implies that the event is an anomaly. Thrill implies that you are experiencing something you do not usually experience. When you sit in your room and visualize having $10,000, and you force yourself to feel a massive, heart-pounding rush of adrenaline and euphoria, what message are you actually sending to your subconscious mind? You think you are sending the message, "I am wealthy," but your subconscious is much smarter than that. Your subconscious speaks the language of the nervous system, and when it feels that massive spike in adrenaline, it interprets it as, "This is a rare, shocking, and unusual event." And if wealth is rare and unusual for you, then you are not wealthy. You are just a poor person having a lucky day. Neville Goddard made this incredibly clear. Though many have misunderstood his words, he said, "Feeling is the secret." But the feeling he was talking about was not the feeling of an emotional high. He was talking about the feeling of reality, the feeling of naturalness. He said that the time it takes for your desire to manifest is directly proportionate to the naturalness of the feeling of having it. Read that again in your mind. The time it takes is proportionate to the naturalness, not the excitement, not the intensity, the naturalness. If something is natural to you, it does not make your heart race. It makes you relax. The language of manifestation is not fireworks. It is a deep, quiet exhale. This is why trying to force yourself to be high vibe all the time is actually repelling your money. You are keeping the money on a pedestal. You are looking up at it. You are treating it like a celebrity that you are desperate to take a picture with. And as long as you treat wealth like a celebrity, you will remain a fan. Fans do not live in the mansion. Fans stand outside the gates and beg for an autograph. To manifest wealth, you must take money off the pedestal and put yourself on it. You must normalize the presence of abundance in your mind until it becomes boring. Think about the device you are using to watch or listen to this right now, a smartphone or a computer. There was a time, perhaps years ago, when you did not have this specific device. When you first bought it, when you unboxed it, you were probably very careful with it. You polished the screen, you admired the design, you felt a little thrill every time you unlocked it. It was new, it was exciting. But how do you feel about it today? You toss it on the couch, you drop it in your bag, you use it without even looking at it. The excitement has completely vanished, replaced by utility and expectation. You expect it to work. You know it is yours. It is completely natural to you. That transition, from the thrill of the unboxing to the boredom of daily use, is exactly the psychological transition you must make with your wealth. When you imagine your ideal life, do not imagine the shock of winning the lottery. Do not imagine the screams of disbelief. That only confirms you do not have it. Instead, imagine paying off your biggest debt with the same emotional neutrality you feel when tying your shoes. Imagine checking your bank account and seeing a massive number and feeling nothing more than a quiet, gentle satisfaction. A simple nod of the head. Of course it is there. This shift changes everything biologically. When you stop trying to force excitement, your nervous system finally exits the state of fight or flight. It stops treating your desire as a high-stakes emergency. It relaxes into the parasympathetic state, the rest and digest mode. And it is only in this state of deep bodily safety that the subconscious mind opens its doors and accepts the new programming. You must learn to become the person who is used to having money. And people who are used to having money do not obsess over it. They are not frantically doing techniques every 5 minutes to keep it. They are living their lives. This brings us back to that strange, quiet apathy we talked about at the beginning. That moment when you just stop caring so much. It is not a loss of faith. It is the arrival of naturalness. It is the moment the new smartphone becomes just a tool. It is the moment the wealth stops being a distant fantasy and becomes a boring, integrated part of who you are. When you reach this state, you have successfully completed the internal work. You have planted the seed perfectly. You have watered it, and you have stepped away to let the soil do its job. But this is exactly where the universe is going to test your new identity, because the physical world, the 3D reality, always operates with a time delay. It is like looking at a star in the night sky. The The light you are seeing is old light, generated millions of years ago. The reality you are experiencing today is the old light of your past assumptions, and as the new reality begins to push its way to the surface, it must break through the concrete of your old life. This breaking process is not gentle, it is not pretty, and it is the exact reason why you might feel like your life is completely falling apart right when you thought you were doing everything right. You are about to enter the bridge of incidents. And if you do not know how to walk across this bridge without looking down, you will fall right back to where you started. Before we cross that terrifying bridge, we must fully anchor ourselves in the first stage. We must talk about the state you enter right before the chaos begins. Neville Goddard called this state the Sabbath. In the ancient texts, the Sabbath is described as the seventh day, the day of rest after the 6 days of creation. But Neville was not teaching history or religion. He was teaching psychology. He was teaching the anatomy of the human mind. The 6 days of creation are not Monday through Saturday. They represent the period of time you spend actively doing the internal work. The 6 days are the nights you spend visualizing your scene. They are the moments you catch your negative thoughts and revise them. They are the deliberate, conscious effort of overwriting your old identity with the new assumption of wealth. You are laboring in the garden of your mind, pulling out the weeds of poverty and planting the seeds of abundance. But a seed cannot grow if you constantly dig it up to see if it has sprouted. There comes a moment when the work is simply done, and that is the arrival of the seventh day, the Sabbath. The Sabbath is a psychological state of profound, unshakable rest. It is the mental equivalent of pushing yourself away from the dinner table after a massive, satisfying meal. You could not eat another bite, even if someone offered you your favorite dessert. You are full. In the Sabbath, you are completely full of your desire. When you enter this stage, something very strange happens to your spiritual routine. You will find that you can no longer visualize your desire. You close your eyes to do your nighttime scene, the one you have been practicing for weeks, and your mind just goes blank. Or you try to force the feeling of having the money, and it feels completely unnecessary, almost foolish, like trying to convince yourself that your own name is your name. You might even feel a wave of intense boredom when you think about your manifestation techniques. This is the exact moment when millions of people panic. They run to the internet, terrified, typing into forums asking, "Why can I not visualize anymore? Am I blocked? Have I lost my ability to manifest?" They try to force themselves to do the techniques, squeezing their eyes shut, trying to squeeze out a feeling that is already saturated in their cells. They think they are failing, but you are not failing. You have succeeded. The reason you can no longer visualize the desire is that your subconscious mind has completely accepted it as a present fact. You cannot vividly imagine acquiring something that your deeper self believes you already own. The conscious mind is trying to ask for something the subconscious mind has already marked as delivered. The system is rejecting the technique because the technique is no longer needed. The creation is finished. You are in the Sabbath. Now I promised you a specific reward early on, and it is time to deliver it, because there is a very dangerous trap here. How do you know the difference between entering the holy rest of the Sabbath and simply giving up out of exhaustion and frustration? How do you know if you are in the state of the wish fulfilled, or if you have just surrendered to your old, broke reality because you are too tired to fight anymore? They might look similar on the outside. In both cases, you stop doing the techniques. In both cases, you stop obsessing over the desire, but internally, biologically, they are entirely different universes, and your body holds the answer. When you give up out of frustration, you are operating in a state of defeat. You stop doing your affirmations, but there is a heavy, dark cloud of resentment hanging over you. You feel bitter. You might look at wealthy people with a renewed sense of envy or anger. You tell yourself, "This manifestation stuff does not work, it is all a scam, I am just going to be realistic." But underneath that fake realism, your chest feels tight. Your stomach is in knots. You have dropped the desire, but you have picked up a profound sense of lack and victimhood. You are resting in despair. The Sabbath, on the other hand, is a rest of supreme confidence. When you drop the techniques in the Sabbath, there is no bitterness. There is no anger at the universe. There is only a quiet, gentle sigh of relief. You look at your current bank account, and even if it is low, it does not trigger a panic attack anymore. You feel a strange sense of detachment from the numbers on the screen. It feels temporary. It feels like watching a movie when you already know the happy ending. You do not feel like a victim, you feel like an observer. The desire is no longer burning a hole in your chest. It feels like it is resting softly in your pocket. If you feel peaceful, indifferent, and strangely secure without any physical evidence to justify that security, you are in the Sabbath. You have done it. The seed is planted. The universe has received the blueprint. And this is precisely when destiny intervenes. But destiny rarely looks peaceful. In fact, to the untrained eye, it looks like everything is going completely crazy. Welcome to Stage 2, the bridge of incidents. You are in the Sabbath. You are feeling good. You are walking through your week with a quiet confidence, knowing your wealth is already a spiritual fact. And then, out of nowhere, the universe hits you with a sledgehammer. You go to work, and your boss calls you into the office to tell you that the company is downsizing and you are being let go. Or you go to your mailbox and find a massive, unexpected tax bill that threatens to wipe out whatever small savings you had left. Or your car breaks down, the engine dies, and the mechanic tells you it will cost thousands of dollars to fix. Or perhaps a business deal you were absolutely certain was going to close suddenly falls apart at the last possible second. The physical world, the 3D reality, appears to be collapsing right in front of your eyes. Your circumstances do not look like wealth. They look like a disaster. They look like the exact opposite of what you have been assuming. What happens next determines the trajectory of your entire life. The amateur manifester, the person who has not trained their mind, looks at this external chaos and immediately collapses. They break the Sabbath. They scream at the sky. They say, "I knew it. I knew this was fake. I assumed wealth. I lived in the end, and now I am unemployed and in debt. The law does not work for me." They instantly identify with the disaster. They allow the 3D world to dictate their internal state. They drop the identity of the wealthy person and immediately put back on the heavy, familiar coat of the victim. And in doing so, they abort the manifestation entirely. They rip the seed out of the ground to show the universe that it is not growing fast enough. But you are not an amateur. You are learning the anatomy of the shift. You must understand what the bridge of incidents actually is. When you successfully implant a new assumption into your subconscious mind, the universe is compelled by immutable law to objectify that assumption. It must make it a physical fact, but the universe is also bound by the laws of physics, time, and human behavior. It does not drop $1 million in a briefcase on your living room floor from the ceiling. It moves through the natural channels of the world. To bring you the new reality, the universe must dismantle the old one. Think of your life like a house. For years you have lived in a small, cramped, rotting house built on the foundation of poverty and limitation. You have decided through the law of assumption that you are now the owner of a magnificent, sprawling mansion built on the foundation of infinite wealth. You have handed the blueprint of the mansion to the ultimate contractor, the universe. What is the very first thing the contractor must do? Can they build the mansion on top of the rotting house? No. They have to bring in the wrecking ball. They have to smash the walls. They have to tear up the floors. They have to rip out the old plumbing. If you were standing inside that house during the demolition phase, without knowing what the contractor was doing, you would be terrified. You would look at the dust, the broken glass, and the falling ceiling, and you would scream, "My house is being destroyed." You would think it was the end of the world. But if you hold the blueprint in your hand, if you know what is being built, you look at the exact same destruction, the exact same dust and broken glass, and you smile, because you know that the demolition is the absolute proof that the new mansion is under construction. The destruction is not a punishment, it is a prerequisite for the upgrade. This is the bridge of incidents. It is a series of interconnected events, some of which may appear incredibly negative, painful, or chaotic, that are strictly necessary to move you from your current state to your desired state. Let us look at a real-world financial example. Suppose you are working a miserable, dead-end corporate job. It pays just enough to keep you surviving, but it drains your soul. You begin to assume the state of a wealthy, successful entrepreneur. You do the internal work. You reach the Sabbath. The universe receives the command, make this person a wealthy entrepreneur. But how can the universe fulfill this command while you are sitting at a desk for 50 hours a week, comfortable enough to complain, but too comfortable to leave? The universe looks at the chessboard of your life and realizes that your current job is the rotting house that is blocking the mansion. So the universe moves a piece. You get fired. To your physical senses, this is a tragedy. You have lost your income. You are terrified. But to the higher mind, to your God self, getting fired was the only logical way to force you out of the comfort zone, to give you the free time to start that business, to push you toward the person you need to meet, or to force you to learn the skill that will eventually generate the millions you assumed. If you judge the event by its appearance, you fail the test. The golden rule of Neville Goddard, the phrase you must repeat to yourself when the world seems to be burning down, is this: do not judge by appearances. The 3D reality is dead matter. It is the echo of your past thoughts. It has no power to create. It only has the power to reflect. When the bridge of incidents throws a challenge at you, it is simply the old energy leaving your system. The unexpected bill is not a curse. It is the final clearing of the old poverty mindset making its exit. Your only job during stage 2 is to walk across the burning bridge without changing your identity. You must act like a method actor who refuses to break character no matter what happens on set. If a light falls down, if another actor forgets their lines, if the director yells, you stay in character. You are the wealthy person. The wealthy person might have to deal with a sudden expense, but they do not lose their identity over it. A millionaire who gets a flat tire is still a millionaire. They just fix the tire and keep driving. They do not sit on the side of the road crying that they are destined to be poor. When the chaos hits, you must anchor yourself in the Sabbath you achieved in stage 1. You look at the firing, the bill, the rejection, and you say to yourself, I do not know how this fits into the plan, but I know that it is part of the bridge. This is happening for me, not to me. The demolition has begun. When you react with this level of mastery, when you refuse to give the external world authority over your internal state, you shorten the time you spend on the bridge. You accelerate the process. The universe reorganizes itself around your unshakable conviction. But holding this conviction, when the physical evidence is screaming the opposite, is the hardest thing a human being can do. It requires a complete detachment from the evidence of your physical senses. It requires you to step into stage 3, the final phase before the physical manifestation materializes. Stage 3 is where you learn the true meaning of authority. It is where you learn how to look directly at a zero in your bank account and feel nothing but the undeniable truth of your own wealth. And to do that, you need a specific mental framework. You need to understand how to detach your identity from the 3D world without slipping into toxic positivity or delusion. You must learn how to live in 2 worlds at the same time. To live in 2 worlds at the same time is the ultimate hallmark of spiritual mastery. This is stage 3. This is identity detachment. When you reach this stage, you no longer react to the physical evidence of your life because you have completely separated who you are from what you are currently experiencing. I want you to imagine a famous, incredibly wealthy Hollywood actor. This actor has just been cast in a new movie where they play the role of a homeless person living on the streets. When the cameras start rolling, the actor wears dirty, torn clothing. They sit on a cold sidewalk. They eat stale bread. They might even act out scenes of deep sadness and desperation. But internally, what is the actor actually feeling? Is the actor genuinely terrified about paying their rent? Is the actor genuinely worried that they will starve to death? Absolutely not. Underneath the dirty costume, the actor knows exactly who they are. They know that they have a multi-million-dollar mansion waiting for them. They know they have a team of chefs, luxury cars, and absolute financial security. The poverty they are experiencing in that moment is just a temporary role. It is a prop. It is a stage. And because they know their true identity, the cold sidewalk does not threaten them. The stale bread does not define them. They can play the role of the beggar perfectly, without ever accidentally believing they are actually a beggar. This is exactly how you must treat your current physical reality. Your 3-dimensional world, your current bank account, your current job, your current living situation is nothing more than a movie set. It is the old script. It is the role you have been playing for years. But through the law of assumption, you have already accepted the new role of the wealthy, successful, abundant person. The problem is that the physical world takes a moment to change the set design. So while the universe is busy rebuilding the set around you, you might still have to walk onto the old set for a few days or weeks. You might still have to put on the costume of the person who is struggling. You might still have to go to the job you hate. You might still have to look at a bank balance that says 0. But when you look at that 0, You must look at it the same way the Hollywood actor looks at the dirty clothes. You look at it and you realize, this is not me. This is just a prop left over from the old movie. You do not identify with it. You do not let it drop into your heart and cause panic. You detach your identity from the physical evidence. This brings us to the third massive reward I promised you. I call this the authority test. This is a mental tool you can use anytime the physical world tries to pull you out of your state of wealth. Let us say you walk to your mailbox and you pull out an unexpected bill. It is for a large amount of money. Immediately, your old programming tries to take over. Your heart starts to beat faster. Your mind starts racing, wondering how you are going to pay it. You feel the heavy, suffocating weight of poverty trying to settle on your shoulders. The moment you feel that physical reaction, you stop. You hold the piece of paper in your hand, you look at it, and you ask yourself the authority test. Does this piece of dead paper have the authority to change my identity? Think about how absurd it is. You are a limitless divine creator. You are the operant power of your universe. You have the ability to shape reality with your imagination. And you are letting a piece of processed wood, with ink printed on it by a machine, dictate your emotional state. You are giving authority to a shadow. When you ask the question, the spell breaks. You realize that the bill is just a piece of paper. It has no power over you unless you actively surrender your power to it. You look at the bill and you say, I am the wealthy person. I am the source of the money. This bill is just a minor transaction that is already handled in the new reality. You take your authority back. You pay the bill if you can, or you put it in a drawer to pay later, but you do it with the absolute emotional indifference of a billionaire. You refuse to let the prop dictate the mood of the actor. But how do you make this detachment permanent? How do you train your brain to naturally default to this state of wealth so that you do not have to fight these mental battles every single day? This requires us to understand the silent, invisible work of the human brain. You have to change the tense of your internal vocabulary. You have to move from hoping for the future to remembering the past. Right now, you're probably spending a lot of your mental energy hoping, wishing, and waiting for your wealth to arrive. You say things to yourself like, I'm going to be rich soon. The money is coming to me. One day, I will not have to worry about this. This language seems positive, but it is actually highly destructive because the subconscious mind is incredibly literal. When you say, I will be wealthy, you are simultaneously declaring, I am not wealthy right now. You are pushing the manifestation into the future, and the future never arrives because you only ever experience life in the present moment. If you are always in a state of waiting, the universe will continuously manifest more waiting. To bypass this trap, Neville Goddard taught a brilliant, simple technique called I remember when. The human brain relies heavily on memory to construct its current identity. Who you believe you are today is entirely based on what you remember about yesterday. But as we discussed earlier, the subconscious brain does not know the difference between a real memory and a vividly imagined one. So, instead of hoping for a wealthy future, you must look at your current state of lack and frame it as a distant memory. When you are sitting in your old car or looking at your small apartment, you do not say, I hate this, I cannot wait to get my new mansion. Instead, you adopt the mindset of the person who is already sitting in the mansion, looking back in time. You say to yourself, I remember when I used to live in that small apartment. I remember when I used to drive that old car. I remember when I used to worry about paying the electricity bill. Do you feel the psychological shift in that language? When you say, I remember when I used to worry about money, you are implicitly stating that you no longer worry about money today. You are implying that the struggle is completely over. You are tricking your brain into accepting wealth as the current, boring reality, and poverty as a closed chapter of the past. This silent, invisible work changes your neural pathways. It builds a bridge of familiarity. It takes the manifestation out of the realm of the extraordinary and places it firmly in the realm of the natural. And as we established at the very beginning of this masterclass, naturalness is the only secret. So let us look at the beautiful architecture of what you have built today. You have learned to drop the frantic desperation of excitement and embrace the quiet, powerful apathy of the Sabbath. You have learned that when the physical world starts to fall apart, it is not a punishment, but the demolition phase of the bridge of incidents making room for your new mansion. You have learned how to detach your identity from the physical evidence acting as the Hollywood millionaire, playing the temporary role of the beggar, and you have learned how to use the "I remember when" technique to trick your brain into accepting abundance as a boring, established fact. If you can hold this structure, the money has no choice but to materialize. It is a mathematical certainty. You have reached the final stage, but there is one last, hidden obstacle. And it is the reason why some of you will understand every single word of this masterclass intellectually, but still fail to manifest the wealth. It is the biological lock. You see, your mind is a king, but your physical body is an animal. And this animal has been trained by years of trauma, stress, and survival mode to fear change. You can intellectually understand that you are wealthy. You can mentally pass the authority test. You can live in the Sabbath in your imagination. But when you actually think about receiving massive amounts of money, or when you look at that empty bank account, your body might betray you. Your chest might tighten. Your breath might become shallow. Your stomach might tie itself into knots. This is not a lack of faith, this is cortisol. This is your nervous system reacting to a perceived threat. To a nervous system that has been poor its entire life, sudden wealth feels like a dangerous, unknown territory. The body hits the panic button because it wants to keep you in the familiar, safe zone of poverty. If your mind is declaring wealth, but your nervous system is screaming in terror, the manifestation cannot anchor into the physical world. The high voltage of the divine wealth will blow the fuses of a low-voltage, traumatized nervous system. You cannot outthink a biological trauma response. You cannot affirm your way out of a tight chest. You must speak the language of the body. You must manually regulate your nervous system so that it feels completely safe to receive and hold massive amounts of abundance without going into fight or flight mode. You cannot just think that wealth is destined for you. Your body must actually feel safe enough to receive it. You must teach your cells that this new destiny is not a threat. If you feel that profound disconnect, if you know the spiritual truth but your body is still shaking with the anxiety of the physical world, you need to upgrade your biological hardware to match your new spiritual software. I have placed a specific protocol in the pinned comment below this video. It is not another manifestation technique. It is a biological tool designed to regulate your nervous system, turn off the survival mode, and make your physical body a safe, peaceful vessel for the wealth you have already created in your mind. If you are ready to finally stop fighting your own biology and let the wealth land softly in your life, that resource is your final key. You have the blueprint. You understand the stages. The old house is already coming down. Do not look at the dust. Look at the mansion. It is done.